Great defeaters, new and old, welcome back to another special episode of The Breakdown with your host, BaseDaKID. As always, shout out to everyone in the chat. I'm gonna get to all of your comments, give everyone their salute and all of that in a moment. Shout out to Tony, he's currently out of the country, so couldn't be here. But as always, I managed to show up, I show out, and we have a show. And on this particular occasion, I have been lucky enough to get one of my dogs, Craig Spider Richards, to hop on. He's gonna be hopping on the stream shortly. As always, when there's guests and that, everyone be respectful in the chat. I'm gonna try and get to the chat, and if there's any questions, I will try to ask them, but I may not be able to see anything because I'm gonna be focused on the screen. So if there's any questions that need to come out, above all else, and definitely want it to be answered, if you put it in the form of a super chat, or a super comment, or you're a member, do it that way so that the screen changes color and I'll be able to see that something's been posted up, and then I'll go to it, and definitely we'll get it in that way. But yeah, big up, salute to everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Yeah, it's one of them ones today, but without further ado, let me just get to the roll call, see who's in the building thus far. So Untraceable was first in the building today. Big ups to you. I guess you must be new, but thank you very much. Speak about the Shiraz fight. Yesterday they spoke about the undercard and not the main fight. Don't worry, I'll speak about that, all one round of it. Tyler MF Durden, big ups to you. Dan the Man, SE15, sorry, hardest working guy on X, big ups to you. Chris Collymore, Philip Answer, bless as well. Fight Fan TV Live, Danny Glover in the building. Big ups to you, Danny. Ellis Palmer, thank you very much for being here and being on time. Jonah 31, Daniel J. Boateng, big up to you, Daniel. I did see that you was on Stamina for Sale on Sunday, representing for your pick and not being bullied. So we'll address that. But thank you very much for being in the chat. You should bring some guests on. Yeah, don't worry, that's coming, Els. That's coming. October Red in the building. Thank you very much for being here. I mean, yeah, I'm getting used to doing the show on my own, to be honest. Like it seems to happen more often than not these days. But it's always good when Tony's here. Apparently, people like the random interruptions. So long may they continue. Jonathan Johnson, big up to you as well. Thank you very much for being in attendance. Clyde Gordon, sorry, Hot Pies. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the chat. Jonah saw Tony at the airport. Oh, so Jonah, I wonder if you was the guy that he spoke about, because he was on he came in the group chat and said that he saw one of the great defeaters in the queue, and he was waiting for and he must have turned around and then you disappeared. So maybe it was you, Jonah. So if that's the case, Tony, now you know who it was that you need to big up. And Tony has decided to lock in all the way from Tunisia as well. I'm hoping he's got good Wi-Fi to see throughout the stream. Chris V, big ups to you, bless up. You look like a new member. I don't think I've seen you here before, but thank you very much for joining. And yeah, hope you enjoy the show. One day you two will have a heated spar. Who will have a heated spar on Traceable? Me and who? Oh, me and Tony. Well, funny enough, if it is me and Tony, we've actually agreed to do that at some point. I keep meaning to go down to the gym. I probably should have done it before my shoulder started messing up, but it's cool. Yeah, we're gonna spar. Also, me and Danny Glover are gonna spar as well. Like, he's been putting that off for a while. He said he needed to shed some timber, but then like every time I see him, he doesn't seem to bring it up. But yeah, it's all gonna be good. Like I'm gonna be looking to spar with a few guys. I'm not a boxer of any sort, so I am expecting to get beat up in a professional setting. But hey, I'm tough. I'm from Blue Bar. That's how we do. You gotta be tough to survive around here. So I could take punishment. Tony saying anyone can get it. When I come down to Croygas, Tony, we'll sort it out. We'll record it for the great defeaters as well. No worries. Chris V, seen you on Chris Andre's channel, so came to check your channel out. Much appreciated. Obviously, this is Undefeated podcast channel, but yeah, I do this show every Tuesday with them. I'm usually on Monday Night Smoke as well. My channel will get to that towards the end of the show, but yeah, big ups to you. Thank you very much for tuning in. Oh yeah, and Tony Jonah is saying, yep, it was him. So you can catch up with him either, I don't know, in the chat or maybe next week when he comes in. So yeah, okay. What's this? I'll pay £5 subs for the channel anyway. Give us fights. Cool. Don't worry, we'll do it. We'll do it all for the love of the channel. Or maybe I'll put it on my channel because I need them subs. So maybe the exclusive footage will come on my channel instead. But yeah, okay. So I guess before Craig jumps in, I think let's see, where do I want to take it real quick? All right, I think the first fight probably we need to speak about will be the Boar Fest, I guess, that happened on Thursday night or Friday morning, depending on how you want to see it, with Teofimo Lopez and Jermaine Ortiz. Without I'm not going to go too much into it. Look, most people who saw the fight saw that it was the first half of the fight was very tactical. The first half of the fight was actually a chess match. It was sort of Ortiz was right in the periphery. Now the funny thing is Ortiz is not actually a southpaw. He's actually an orthodox fighter, but he can switch it. But he fought the entire fight in that southpaw stance, and his first, the idea was to move on the outside, to make Teo have to follow him, to make Teo basically lunge in and fall into his attacks and then counter him. In those first 5 rounds, he was doing that expertly. Now, funny enough, I still had it quite close after the first 5. I had it around about 3-2. Admittedly, I wasn't scoring the fight wholeheartedly because it was 4 something in the morning and I was half tired. So yeah, it was just one of them ones whereby I just had to watch it and kind of get an overall feel of what was happening. So after kind of round 5, you saw Ortiz almost go into, he was still kind of doing the same thing, but he started moving a lot more. He actually held his feet more in the first 5 rounds than he did after that. So I don't know whether maybe he felt a particular shot or he thought, okay, if I can make Teofimo open up a bit more, then maybe I can catch him down the stretch or frustrate him. I'm not sure what the tactic was, but he started moving a bit too much. And in that particular moment, the first thing I said to myself was, I was on Twitter X at the time, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if, or no, actually I said Teofimo better hope that the judges are giving him consideration for come forward, for like the come forward aggression. And lo and behold, I think that is kind of what happened, because you see the fight, you see how it played out, and he was basically trying to engage and step forward for the almost every round up until the points where he got tired, or he got tired of the movement, and then started to back up towards the corners and beckon Ortiz to come in and sort of engage with him, which Ortiz actually did on several of those occasions. But there was one exchange in particular that I found hilarious. And I can't remember what round it was in, but Teofimo basically dropped his hands and motioned to Ortiz to stand in the middle of the ring and let's go. And in that exchange, Teofimo ended up actually losing the exchange. He actually I think he ended up eating a 3-piece combo in that particular exchange, which I found quite hilarious. I'm like, you can't beckon the guy on to you and then all of a sudden you end up letting that happen. So yeah, to me, I found that quite funny. I thought to myself, okay, well, it looked very much like a Teo's losing the fight, but again, I just kept thinking to myself, the judges are going to be looking at the guy that's coming forward, even if he's not landing. The fact that he's coming forward, and at this time Ortiz had stopped throwing meaningful punches. He was very rarely engaging in those moments. So we get to like the most action actually happened in the 12th round, and I guess by that time Ortiz must have thought that, yeah, he's well ahead, he's doing his he's about to do his thing, and at that point you just say like, okay, cool, he's yeah, he's like, okay, let me just coast. But they always say never leave it to the judges. So both him and Teofimo actually came out and then actually started exchanging a little bit in that round, started landing in that round, and you saw you know, a situation whereby they both was on their feet. You know, no one got knocked down. There was no sort of real impetus to take the fight by the scruff of the neck by the time the fight itself was over. And then we heard scorecards. Now, when I heard 117, 111, the first thing I thought was, oh, maybe they actually might give this to Ortiz, because I can't see 9 rounds at TO won, even coming forward. Then I saw the two 115, 113s, and I was like, Ortiz could win this, but I still think they're going to give it to the home fighter just because he was on the front foot for the majority of the fight. And lo and behold, that's what happened. Now, I predicted that Teofimo would win, and I predicted he'd win by unanimous decision. But what I did say also was that his mind is on everything else but this fight. And to me, that is going to cause more problems than anything. Well, to be honest, I was actually slightly wrong, because it wasn't because his mind was on other things. It's the fact that he can't deal with any movement. Anytime he's got a mover in front of him, there's an issue. And it's actually very evident at this point. So it's like he seems to be too stubborn to even want to fix it, because every time there's an issue, it's someone else's problem. He's not addressing the fact that this is the 3rd time this has actually happened now. Not even so much having a bad performance, but having a performance like this. I mean, the Nakatani fight was similar. I mean, he managed to still get to Nakatani, but you had the, you know, the Sandor Martin fight again. Can't deal with movement, especially from that southpaw stance, it seems. And now you had it from Jermaine Ortiz, who he had the perfect game plan. He read the blueprint on how to win. He just didn't throw enough punches in the later half to cement his victory. I still feel like he probably should have got the decision, but I understand why Teofimo did ultimately. So, you know, I'm not calling robbery or anything like that on the situation. It is what it is. Tio is definitely a person who will, a bit like Tank Davis, he's going to do his best work against someone that comes forward that he can counterpunch, because that's his best attribute, him being able to counterpunch. A fight with him versus Devin Haney is going to end the exact same way. The only difference is Devin will make it emphatic that he's winning those rounds. Someone like, I guess maybe a Regis Prograis, that will be a hard fight, because he'll have all the opportunities to do the countering and like use his athleticism and his speed, but the power coming back is also very serious. So it's just a case of he's got to navigate it correctly at this point, but he has to make sure that ultimately he can't take more fights with guys that move. That's one of the reasons why he doesn't want to fight Arnold Barboza, because he's a mover, he's a boxer, and he knows that the movement is going to cause him problems. So it'll be interesting to see what he does moving forward. But yeah, unfortunately, that's pretty much all I got to say about that one. A couple other people jumped into the chat while I was speaking. Alexander the Great, thank you very much for tuning in. Skyliner, the editor, big up to you. What was your take on yesterday's Buatsi versus Yard debate? I may give my take on that later. There will be a video coming tomorrow where I will obviously be addressing what happened on Sunday, so you guys can stay tuned for that. But yeah, just double checking some of these others. Philip Answer, Subriel Matias are signed with Matchroom Boxing. It's just been announced. Yeah, I mean, it's he signed actually a couple weeks ago, but it was, yeah, they formally announced it now, and he will be fighting, I think, Liam Paro in Puerto Rico in June. So that's very good for him. He needed to get away from sort of the PBC. He can get activity now, which is the main thing. Um, Jimmy Jinnell, one. I feel as though you need to send me a link so I can chop it up with you. If not, respect, do your thing, big man. Okay, well, blessings to you. If I get some time towards the end of the show, we can bring you in and you can see what it is you've got to say. But thank you for joining. Right, ladies and gentlemen, finally Craig is in the building. So as always, parliamentary procedure. Get those clap emojis in the chat and welcome in. After returning 21 months out the ring, but Craig Spider Richards is back, and he is what the light heavyweight division in the UK has needed. So, Craig, big ups to you, my bro.
Big up, big up, big up, big up. Back in full effect.
So, talk to us about the fight, man. How did it feel, sort of being back after so long, and like, what was did it feel different to the previous fights?
Yeah, of course, it was brand new. I've never taken that long out of boxing and fought before. Of course, I've been in the gym, stayed in the gym, but it's different sparring than under the lights. Just taking my time, not trying to do too much, trying to work on little bits and pieces that Shane's been telling me to work on in the gym. So I was just trying out a few things here and there, not doing too much. But then as the rounds went on, I said, you know what, I've got to go and close the show, because this is a show at the end of the day and people want to see a knockout. So I had my time in there to feel out and try a few things, and then the next bit was for everyone else's entertainment and go and shut up the shop. But as you know, like, we've seen him in there with top operators in the UK, and he's been in there 10 rounds and that with them. Strong guy, can punch. We've seen him hurt a couple of top guys. So I wanted to, it was nice 21 months out and still able to make a statement of getting a stoppage.
That's what we like to hear. Now, what I'm going to do while we carry on talking, I'm going to play the footage that I had from the show so we can just kind of maybe just talk over some of the things that you were trying out. Because I noticed a few things from early, and I said to myself, okay, he's definitely just being extra careful right now, just making sure that he's got his distance. In this part, right, how did, like, when you was there, like, in his stance, he tried to be a blade. He tried to be really sort of hunkered down. So in those first couple of rounds, like, how did you have to did you have to sort of approach it? Was it all about, all right, let me just touch and see his reaction, see what he does, or was it more about, let me just get into my groove?
Yeah, it was more working him out, seeing his timing, seeing his speed, etc. We know he's been very aggressive in other fights. I think in the Lyndon fight, he was walking forward all the time, throwing over hand rights, being aggressive the whole fight. So it was about just nullifying him first, and then using the first couple rounds to just stab my dominance and my authority to take control of the bout, controlled it at my pace, boxed at my pace, worked on what I needed to. I was very in the room. I wasn't in that dark moment where I'm having a stakeout, where I'm just doing things subconsciously. I was in the room the whole time. Yeah. And then, as I said, then it was time just to move forward through that.
Yeah, because I noticed in those first 3 rounds especially, right, like, you barely got touched. You was very alert, very aware. Like, you see the way we just pulled out there, up high, but behind the shoulder, very rarely was getting touched. But it's like from about round 4, it's almost like you said to yourself, all right, I felt what he can deliver. It's nothing major, but I need to start breaking him down. And I noticed from like the 3rd round onwards, but most specifically in the 4th, that's when you forgot about stabbing to the body. Now it was starting to dig those shots in. Did you feel them having an effect from the start, or was it just like after a while you just noticed 1 or 2 gave you a reaction?
I knew it was breaking him down slowly but surely, but then after a while I was like, listen, I'm gonna have to take the gambles to break him down a lot quicker. We ain't got 10 rounds, we ain't got 12. So I had to start getting in a bit more heavy, breaking him in a bit more, taking a little bit more risks in, knowing he's going to throw the overhand right, and just trying to make him miss and staying there with him a little bit. And as the rounds went on, I just closed the distance more to really get my teeth stuck in.
When you was taking a few of the shots that he threw, like, I'm not saying, oh, did any of them buzz you, but how alert did you feel you had to be after you took like 1 or 2?
Well, I saw him in previous fights, and he looked like he could hurt people, he could buzz him, so I thought he's going to be able to punch. But as I started taking risks 3 or 4 and 5, and he clipped me with some shots, I realised that he wasn't going to hurt me. So when I realised he's not going to have effect on me, I thought, I don't have to be so cautious anymore. I'm going to take a few more gambles here.
Okay. So you said in the interview that we done the other day, look, like Shane's been teaching you so many different things. By the way, that was a beautiful body shot. Like Shane's been teaching you like a few just intricacies, even the way that you place your feet, the way you turn your hand over for the punch. So in this fight, you said, look, you can't show everything, not everything's muscle memory yet, but like what was, I guess, one of the main things that he showed you that you was like, yeah, I implemented this one and it really gave me a benefit?
Well, it was about the patience and just varying the jab a little bit up. I put into place a little bit of some of that stuff he was showing me about varying the jab and just taking my time and placing that here and there. I took my time to practice that. Didn't get too overexcited. Didn't try and follow up with a few shots after that, which I wanted to. But I was like, be patient and keep working on it. You work in the gym rather than going there for the kill from the off. And not try and put them in bunches as well. It's like relax. So I wanted to because I knew it's obviously being 21 months out and the fans have come to watch you. You want to get stuck in and give them value for money, but I had to be professional and just start working on some of that stuff with him. Little foot things I was working on with what he's been saying. Obviously, wasn't completely ingrained, but trying little bits out with him. Not too much of what we've been learning. Probably about 15% I was practicing of what we were doing in the gym. So I thought over time we'll mold more and it'll become more fluent.
You know, one thing I noticed also is like one of the things that people used to say for you was a criticism that like you used to wait too much, or like you didn't really get going until like maybe four, 5, 6, 7. You used to be too cautious. That was a criticism that like Tony Bellew always used to throw at you. But in this particular fight, even from them first rounds, even when you was like you was foot fainting, you was doing a lot in there, you was being busy even when your hands weren't moving, but that jab was popping out like consistent. Was that also a concerted effort, like I can't be too slow, I can't let this be a situation where people think the fight's closer than it is?
Yeah, of course. We've been working on that stuff in the gym, even more so in the gym than I've displayed. Obviously, under light, still taking a little bit of caution yet, but definitely something you notice from the off. I was ready to engage and get like busy straight away. If we wanted to engage, I would have been more busy than I was. But obviously, he was a bit cautious. I don't know if early felt my power or stuff, but I realized he was disengaging the more the fight went on. So I had to look for him a bit more. But I tried to not rush it and, you know, as I was saying, being a bit patient, but definitely something I've been working on, implicated, even between the shots, just make sure I'm busy and make sure I'm in there.
How important is staying composed in a fight, especially when you haven't been in the ring for so long and you're not quite sure, is the gas tank still what it used to be? Like I'm a bit older now. Like was that difficult, almost having to stay as patient, or did it come natural?
I can be a natural patient fighter, but obviously being out the ring 21 months and being frustrated, you're gonna want to just get stuck in. So I was having to remember, don't go and do what you want to do. And I was having to tell myself, remember to be patient. So this time, because of how long I was out, you want excitement from the off, but I had to show maturity and experience.
So we're coming up towards nearly the end of this footage now. So this is where, yeah, this is, I think, is round 6, and like you could clearly see, all right, now you're starting to make those concerted efforts specifically, yeah, to go to the body. He definitely isn't liking it right now. So at that point, did anything say to you, all right, you know what, let me shoot up to the head, or did you feel no, the body is still the key here? The body is still the key.
I knew I was cooking him by a 6, and I could have took the gamble to go for it in a 6, but I thought, again, take your time, give it 1 more, give him 3 more minutes to cook, slow cook him a little longer before you get him out of there. So I could have gone for it 6, but it was yet again, take your time, it's coming. 7, knew that was the time.
And here it comes right here. That's the shot right there. He didn't like that one. Bang. Over. And at that point, when he got up, did you think, oh, okay, like maybe he's gonna try to survive the round, or did you like, there's no chance you're coming out of the 7th?
I knew he would try and survive the round. What he's going to try, what was going to happen was 2 different things. I see him look. I see him question, do I want to be in there? I know you don't want to be in there, but I'm going to get you out of your misery. I'm going to take you out of your misery. And I knew there was no way I was letting him off the hook. I knew I was going. I said to Shane before, if I get there, I'm taking him out. And he laughed, and I said, no, if I see the opportunity, he's out of there. So I said, I'm going to take my time and get the rounds in, but if I hurt him, That's it. And that's what happened. As soon as I see the opportunity, I said, let me go close the show now.
And close the show you did. So listen, straight after, well, after the event, right, I spoke with Eddie Hearn briefly, and I asked him, I said, look, because he's obviously championed for you to be his number one guy if the 5v5, if light heavyweights is called. Now, realistically, we know light heavyweight is going to be called. It's a glamour division in boxing. There's no way it's not going to be one of the five. But I asked him, is there any potential chance for you to maybe like get another fight in beforehand, like any of the other cards, whether it's like a 4 weeks away, an 8 round or something, just to get further rust off? But he said no, he had 7 good rounds, 7 hard competitive rounds, so any ring rust that was there is now gone. Do you share the same sentiment, or would you, in your ideal world, would you still have liked maybe one more like this before jumping to the next level?
No, as I've got on in the rounds, the rust did seem to start coming off. I start to get to grips with it. Of course, you want as much activity as you can. If I got told you're boxing in 3 weeks, you know my shorts are back on. But of course, at the same time, I get why if I get selected for it, they don't want to take any chances, any injuries, any niggles, any silly cuts. They want to prevent all of that. So I guess that's why they wouldn't want me to get straight in there and fight between that.
Sure, I hear that. Okay, so a question actually that I wanted to ask you. I didn't ask you the other day, but I'll ask you now. So with your career, obviously the Buglioni thing, basically you've, if the word unprotected had a name, it would be Craig Spider Richards, because you've never been the number one. You've never actually been the guy, right? So you've never been maneuvered in a way whereby, you know, he can take the step ups and take the bring alongs. Like, you've always been matched up from day dot.
100%.
Now, with that being said, if the Frank Buglioni situation never happened, right, and you were still an undefeated fighter to this day, there are other, you know, light heavies who have been afforded that opportunity, like to maybe take the fights they want to take when they want to take them, build and trying to build them up that way. Would you have been more cautious with maybe your career or your matchmaking to this point, or would you still have been got gum shield, will fight?
Well, come on, it answers for itself. When I boxed Buglioni on 5 days' notice, I was 10-0 unbeaten. So most people 10-0 ain't gonna do that. They're not gonna gamble it. You got to remember, when I took that fight, I'd never boxed 12 rounds before. Your first 12 rounder, it wasn't even my weight. I was still a super middleweight. So the weight above against a guy with doubly experience, and I think he had 15 knockouts when I only had 10 fights. So the first 12 rounder, 5 days' notice for your first 12 rounder, and the weight above. Gum shield in, let's go. That's me. That's me. I've got, most unbeaten fighters wouldn't do that. I didn't care about the I want to get busy, I want to get active. It's all about making them big steps and taking them gambles. I think the bigger the gamble, bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. So I'm one who believes in that. Fighting is not something I've ever feared. So it makes sense, put me in.
I hear that. So even with regards to that now, because obviously again, like, Matchroom are championing you for their light heavyweight. So on the Queensberry roster, there was only about, I think there's Anthony Yard, there's Ezra Taylor, I think Zach Parker's gone up to light heavy now. There might be, I think Willie Hutchinson's also there. Do you think that if that gets called and your name gets mentioned, like, do you think that Queensberry will call Yard to take that fight, or do you think that they will try and bring in one of their others as more of a to save him for like the Boatsi fight?
I think maybe calling one of the others. I think they possibly tried to bring him in, but I think he's got his own plans. He's got other plans. So I think it'll probably be one of the others, because I think Yard's got his own plan in terms of the Boatsi fight, etc. Me and Yard, we've got a great relationship, as everyone knows. That's my guy from day. So we're never aiming to try and go against each other. So I think he'll stick to his route and someone else will fill in.
That reminds me, actually. So with regards to this, like, ultimately, and obviously there hasn't been announced, so we don't know exactly how it particularly works, but is it a case that if they tried to call things, okay, say that they called you, can you actually then say, no, I don't want to do it? Because I'm just thinking, like, you know, stable pride. So if Frank's like, well, no, okay, we want Yard to do it, and he goes, no, like, I only want to take on Boatsi. So do you think that can actually happen, or do you think you kind of got to take it?
his own man, innit? You can't say not the army. You can't summons. You can't summons him to the war. He's got his own career. It's like anything. If they said to me, "You're fighting Baterviev next week," I could say yes or no. So it's a situation that he doesn't have to do anything. It's like if he doesn't want to fight on the 5 vs 5 and he wants to do the boxing, he's allowed. He's his own man, innit?
Fair dues, no, because I didn't really know how it would work, but I'm just thinking like stable wise. I can imagine if you get called for something and then you're like, yeah, nah, not for me. That that might not work in your favor when it comes to that preferential treatment. But I guess that's a whole nother story, and that's not something you got to worry about because we know that, like you said, have gum shield, we'll fight.
Yeah, boxing is very political, but I think he's in a good position with his stable and his position. I think he's been one of the priorities over there. So I doubt because he doesn't want to do that, people will start then telling him he's going to be shelves or anything. I think he's an important member over on that side. So I think he should have a little bit of say on his career.
Yeah, that. So obviously over the weekend, like he fought as well, and this isn't even anything to do with necessarily you two. Now, admittedly, obviously on 2X, I did put out back in January that I would, when they said the 5v5, I said Richards versus Yard. Obviously, this is before really knowing the history between you two, so it's understandable if it doesn't happen. But I'm sure that you've either seen his fight or seen the highlights of his fight thus far. Obviously, we spoke about Boazzi Aziz from last week. Just what was your kind of thoughts on the performance, the opponent, all that sort of stuff?
About honest, I haven't got to watch it back yet. I do want to watch it. I definitely will watch him. I like watching him as well. But I think because it's on BT or TNT.
Yeah.
The Zone, you just click the app and you can replay with that, but obviously they don't have an app like that, so I think I'd have to wait till the fight gets out. Is it out yet on?
I haven't seen it. No, I don't think it is.
Yeah, so I don't think it's out yet. So when it comes out, because obviously I was fighting when he was fighting, so I obviously wasn't tuned into TNT. I was obviously in the ring, but obviously when it comes out, I'll have a watch of it.
Actually, do you know what? I've got a link to. There's a website I use. I actually watched it on that website. So after the stream, I'll send that to you a bit later on. And yeah, you can just scroll through it. But well, actually, one last question, because I appreciate the fact that obviously you've come on, and I know that you're flying tomorrow, so you're doing this on unlimited sleep. I know you need that sleep, so appreciate it. So what does the rest of 2024 look like for you? And in an ideal world, how many more fights would you like to have this year? Not necessarily the level, but just how many more would you like to have?
Ideally 3, but I'll probably guarantee probably another 2, but ideally 3. I want activity this year, especially I'm playing catch up with such a long layoff. 21 months out weren't ideal. So now it's just about getting the momentum back, getting activity back, and just staying in the gym. So that's why I want to go away for only a couple of days so I can get straight back in the gym and build from where I was building with Shane. So obviously we had that fight the other day, but I don't want that to stop the momentum of what's going on. So in the gym the whole time anyway. So when I get the call, they say, yo, like this fight, obviously Boris don't realize I had the same day's notice as him. One day before I got told. Obviously at the press, I wasn't going to tell him that when he fought. You got to play along as much as you can. So, but I say that to say this, that's the reason, because I'm in the gym all the time and I got the call 12, 13 days to say, are you good for a 10 rounder? Not this weekend, next weekend. I can say yes. So I say that because I want, when that call comes again, if it happens, look, we've got a show, couple weeks, 3 weeks. Do you want to fight? I can be like, yeah, because I'm in the gym. You know what I'm saying? Staying on weight in the gym. So I'm ready to get active. I'm ready to get out as soon as I get the opportunities.
No, man, I hear that. Look, as they always say, man, stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. And clearly you've been doing that. The discipline is there. It's noticed. Actually, one last thing just before I let you go. So obviously at the moment on the record, you've got 3 losses. Chances are there ain't gonna be any more. But you can't get the Frank Buglioni one back. That can never happen. But is part of the plan for you before you retire to get it back in blood for the other 2 losses that you have?
Yeah, I want to get them other 2 back, man. I have to get them other 2 back. That's guaranteed.
Okay.
Because I think we're all going to be floating around the same level for a while. We're all similar in age. So I think we've got as long as each other in the game. So we've got to run that back because I believe they'll stay up there with me. We've got to do it again.
Okay, okay. Look, Craig, man,
That
thank
was too close. Like it was both very close. So
very no, you know what? I'll give you that. Like there wasn't any. Okay, look, for me personally, like, you know, my thoughts on the Bivol fight, but
yeah,
you was in there. And every round I even said, like, while I had the scorecard I had, every round was competitive. I just feel like he nicked a lot of them. He was very smart at nicking the rounds.
yeah.
But the Bawatsi one, that one was definitely like very, very close. And again, it's all about that whole maybe being a bit too patient or thinking you're doing more, but the judges ain't seeing it. Now
Well,
you're actually,
exactly what you said in between the punches, what you said earlier. Because when you look at it, I was consistent throughout the 3 minutes, but
yeah.
he was consistent throughout the 3 minutes. But when he threw a shot or a combination for 10, 20 seconds, it was very eye catching. So that was what people or the judges could remember. Oh, do you remember that combination you just threw in that round? I might give it to him. Not sometimes just the consistent work throughout the 3 minutes. And
Yeah.
that's why, depending on how you look at it, that's why Bunsey and all of them lot had me up by 1 round. That's why the judges had him up by 1 round. Some people scoring a draw. There was so much mixed opinions because what you liked and what caught your eye. Was you liking the consistency, or was you liking the eye catching? And maybe when my consistency, when I'm not punching, where I wasn't doing nothing between that, people not understanding the consistency throughout the work. So yeah, these are the sort of things that you got to take into account and work on as well when you're back in the gym.
And that's why I'm assuming that when you do get those fights back, you're going to be making sure, even like I said, even if you're working, maybe just pouring out the jab a little more to make it look like you're doing extra and
Yeah,
keeping the person busy before you let those big shots go.
yeah, you're right. It's just that don't cry and complain about things in the past. Go to the gym and work on them, and make sure you don't get the same result twice. And this is why when I run these back,
Okay, you know what? No more needs to be said. Craig, look, thank you very much for jumping on. Appreciate you. Go get some rest, and yeah, we will chop it up again real soon in the future. But much respect to you. Big win over the weekend. Thank you for entertaining the people, and it's good to have you back, man. Don't let it be too long before the next one.
pick up the people as well. Come on.
Salute. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much to Craig. Always a pleasure chatting to him, and Craig, especially since like the Joshua Bawatsi fight, you've seen like Craig has actually come a lot more. He's been a lot more vocal, a lot more comfortable. Before then, he used to like he was always polite, always cool, but he was a bit more reserved. Now he's like, no, 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 I'm good, and you guys are gonna know I'm good, and it is what it is. So much respect to Craig. Thank you very much for jumping on. And thank you for the chat. I didn't see all the comments, but I did see there was a bunch of people interacting. So I will get to those comments just before jumping back into the action over the weekend. Let's see. Okay, so we got all the clapping emojis. Daniel Boateng, yeah, Tyler, Tony, obviously in the building. Ellis, let's go, champ. Jimmy General. Right at the end of the show, Jimmy, I'm gonna send you a link. I'll let you jump on so we can obviously discuss whatever it is you want to discuss. I'm fully open to hearing whatever that may be. Had a little party, shook her leg, then done his dance. slow cook. Made sure the meat was falling off the bone. Like they didn't want to serve it underdone. I get it. Craig has the best chin in Britain at 175. I mean, thus far there is no evidence to suggest otherwise. So untraceable. Craig has always had a good gas tank that he has, but whenever you're at the ring, sometimes you just have to double check, make sure that the engine is still well oiled. Craig, walk on with the Matchroom Queensbury 5v5. Go get that Saudi bike. Well, as he said, like if his name's called, he's there. Jimmy, I didn't know Craig, but tuned in. I think Channel 5 are straight. I was rooting for, man. I liked his attitude and fighting flex. Yep. Oh yeah, Carol Tuama was there as well. But to be honest, there's no chance they'll put Carol in with Craig. Maybe you might get Ezra or a Zach Parker, but I doubt. If it's not Anthony, it has to be Zach Parker personally. Maybe Willie Hutchinson. I can't see any of the others basically getting called like that. Man said he's not the army. Very true, very true. Appreciate that, fight fan. Appreciate that. In good hands with McGuigan, definitely. One thing Shane McGuigan is an excellent trainer. Which loss do you think he can actually avenge? I think he can avenge both of them personally. I mean, the Boatsi one definitely more than the Bivol one, but there's a chance that he can do both. I think the Bivol one was a lot. Obviously, it was a lot closer than people expected it to be, but ultimately that was just down to his ability. Now, let's not forget, Bivol is an elite level talent, so that's not a foregone conclusion that he will. But in terms of can he, I mean, anything can happen on the day. And if there's any of them that have got the abilities to, to put up that kind of effort, Craig is one of the people that I would back in that scenario. Alan, I didn't know he fought recently. I will check it tonight if it's on YouTube. I thought he was potentially fighting his good mate Yard, but that ain't happening now. Well, again, that's not been confirmed either way. If Yard gets called, I mean, Craig has already been given the #1 spot by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. So, it will happen if it has to happen, unless one of them swerves it. How about Ben Whitaker? That would be big, yeah. But that's cross promotional on a different level. That's a very different proposition and problem. I think it would be a bit too soon for Ben, but again, that's not a chance that Boxer will take. Not right now. Craig versus Vosdik, who wins? The fans. that's definitely that's a boxing fans fight right there. That's two high level operators working it out. I mean, look, Vosdik he had about 4 years out the ring, but he did have 3 fights last year, so he's hella active right now. So yeah, it's that'll be interesting. I'd have to do some tape study before I could give a definite answer on that. But if I'm gonna be real, like just based on the amateur pedigree and what they've done as pros, I'm gonna have to lean to Vosdik at the moment. But again, that's not a foregone conclusion, and that's just me being honest. Like, everyone knows you're not gonna come in here and hear brethren bias and whatnot. Like, if I feel something, that's how it is. Like, that's how it is, isn't it, brethren or not? But yo, let's get back into the work. So since we were on the light heavyweights just there with Craig, we might as well stay with the light heavies, looking at the Anthony Yard and what's his name, Marko Nikolic fight. So I watched it. I didn't, I'm gonna be real, I didn't actually like pay a huge amount of attention to it, but I watched it. The one thing that I kind of saw from the off was that Nikolic was very he just seemed very stiff. Like, the shoulders were stiff, like the movement was stiff. There was nothing about him when I was looking that told me that this is like a professional boxer with maybe an amateur pedigree or something along those lines. Like, I couldn't really, I was looking, even the way he was sort of throwing his punches, like everything just seemed a bit sloppy to me. So it was hard to kind of gauge what level he was at. And when I was looking, first thing I'm thinking is, so this guy was 32-3. I was trying to work out the 32 people that he beat. Now, he seemed like he had a bit of a tough head. I'll give him that. Like, he could take a shot to the head. He did look like he was tough in that regard. But everything, just the whole aura, I didn't see the weigh-in. Like, I've been told, Daddy from Fight Fan TV's told me that he looked like petrified at the weigh-in, like mad scared. I didn't see all of that, so I can't comment. But in the ring, he definitely fought like someone, to me, that didn't necessarily know what he was doing. Now, did that make Anthony Yard's performance better, or was Yard the reason he looked like that in the ring? At this point, I don't know. That's the honest truth. Now, what I will say is Yard had some very good movement. There were some good combinations. When he had to go chasing after Marko Nikolic, you know, he basically did that. He never had to really cut off the ring because Marco wasn't a mover. He definitely seemed more like the ploddy sort of opponent. But you know, the combinations were good, and I think there was a couple of times he hit him to the head, and it didn't seem to do anything. So he went downstairs and laid in those body combinations. So he did what I guess he was expected to do. It lasted 3 rounds. I think in my predictions league, I predicted 4, so I was off by 1. But the problem here is, well, there's 2 problems actually. Like, one of them is, okay, I know that when you don't respect someone's power, sometimes you take some liberties. Craig just said to you guys, like, you know, when he realized that, you know, the punches weren't really saying much from Krat, and he took a few more chances to dig to the body to get him out of there. But there was a couple of occasions where I saw Yard take some punches clean in that fight. And I was saying to myself, like, by all rights, you're not supposed to let a man like this hit you at all. Based on what I saw in terms of like the movement and everything, like, okay, if he jabs you maybe to your chest, or he hits an arm or a forearm or a glove, cool, but you ain't supposed to take any straight right hands down the pipe. And there was a couple of occasions he did. Now, obviously, they didn't bother him because he came back and did what he needed to do. But the biggest issue I have is, like, as good as he looked, I still don't know where to rate him. I don't know how good he is. That's the problem with me. Like, I don't know where to rate Anthony Yard. A lot of people want to say that he's an elite level talent, or he's a world class talent. I don't know that, because there's still not a world class win on the record for me to be able to say, all right, yeah, I definitely know that's your level. Fringe world, Europe. I mean, maybe the biggest accomplishment he's got as a pro, I believe, is the Commonwealth title, right? Now, depending on where you view it, some people view the Commonwealth above the British, some people view the Commonwealth as below the British. So I guess, but they're very interchangeable. Like, there always seem to be a unification where they're like, oh, we're unifying the Commonwealth and the British title. So usually that kind of tells me that they're seen as very similar to each other, because you unify world titles, right? So if you unify the British and the Commonwealth, they're very close. That's the level that I have him at. So is that domestic? Is that like domestic plus? I don't know. I don't know what we're classing it as, but it's just another situation whereby I know they say we need activity. We need, you know, he wants activity and everything, but the Better BF fight happened in January of last year, and then you took 9 months out to go and fight another one of these guys, and then 5 months later you're fighting another one. Like, I know that you're saying you're waiting for this big domestic fight, or you want the big fights or whatever, but in between those, can't we just have a good solid level fight? Unfortunately, like, look, I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I can here, right? Because again, I like Anthony Yard as a fighter. I just don't know what to rate him. I don't know how good he is. I want to know actually how good he is, because all I know thus far is he can give a decent account of himself at the world level, but fall short. And then at domestic level, at the moment, he's 1-1. So I need to be able to, for all the talk that seems to happen, I can't see any clear separation between him and the other guys. So I need to see him in there with, if not them, maybe some of their common opponents. If not their common opponents, maybe like the upper guys, the upper European level guys in the division, the Dominic Bozels, the Robert Krasnickis, the Richard Riveras. Like, give me someone that I know their body of work, I know their credibility, and can say, all right, you're on that level. You beat that guy. You beat this guy. The guy that he fought on the weekend, from what I found out just before the fight, I think, is a full-time firefighter in, where is he from? Is he Bulgarian? I think he might not be Bulgarian, but he's a full-time firefighter in his native country. So as much as you say you need activity, or like the people proclaim you to be the best guy in the in the division, like you have to be fighting Serbia. Thank you very much, Danny. Serbian. He's a Serbian firefighter, full time, like boxes on the side, I guess, to make extra cash. A world level / elite level athlete is not taking on part-time boxers. Even the I mean, don't quote me on this because I'm not a full historian, but I'm sure that even the bum of the month club that, you know, Muhammad Ali had, but I'm sure that even those guys were still full-time professional fighters, right? I want to see you in there with some full-time fighters. That's all I want. So I'm kind of gonna leave it there. I'm not going to go too into it because we get the same thing over and over again. And what did they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? Well, yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then that's what we're seeing, because there's nothing to tell us that it's going to be anything other than that right now. So, yeah, cool. We'll leave it there. I'm hoping he can get one of the big fights he wants next, so that we can kind of see exactly what, you know, what the deal is moving forward. Jonah 31, he might be top 5 in Serbia. Well, he's a Serbian light heavyweight champion. But I mean, I don't know the credentials of the Serbian nationals to determine what their level of you know, their level of competency in the boxing arts is. He wasn't a very good advertisement for them from what I saw. Fight Fan TV says, remember Tim Bradley said Zach Chelly and Jack Cullen need to do boxing as a side hustle and don't give up the day job. Yeah, I remember that. But at least those guys are full-time. They're full-time boxers at least. Like, and to be fair, them two together didn't look good, but we've seen them look good in other fights. They just didn't look good together. So yeah, but I hear that. Listen to Yard's response during the TNT boxing interview between the both of them. Buatsi seems 100% on it, and Yard seems 50-50. Yard will probably fight Craig Richards or Callum Smith. Well, the Craig Richards one is the least likely of the three, unless, you know, he wants the Saudi bag. But yeah, there was a lot of talk of, you know, well, it's got to make sense, or, you know, we've got teams for a reason, like the deal's got to be right, or, you know, in the right time, or, you know, we should do it later in the year when there's possibly a belt on the line. Nothing really seemed like, I want that fight, let's make the fight happen now, whatever we got to do, let's make it work. It didn't seem like that. So I don't know if that's you know, I don't really know how much we can make of that, but yeah, you know, that's pretty much how we've just got to view it at this point until anything else happens. That's basically what we gotta see. So Philip Answer says, how come Craig Richards find a decent opponent for a comeback fight like Boris Crichton and Yard can't? I don't have the answer. Yard was calling out CBS a few weeks ago. Yeah, he said he's trying to toy with cruiserweight, but I mean, them cruiserweights are big guys. And as much as, like, you know, CBS may not be the most talented fighter, like, that guy's tough. So, you know what I mean? That's not a foregone conclusion that you win that fight. But yeah. All right. Let's move on from there. We've got quite a bit more to get through. So I'm going to touch on some of these. Hold on one sec. Big Frank doesn't have good relationships sometimes. Well, he seems to have a decent enough relationship with the guy that can make everything happen at this point. Philip Answer, are you going to touch on what Tunde said about you? I will address that on my own channel. Tomorrow, there'll be a video out regarding that. That's not for this one. It wasn't dealt with on this channel, so I'm not going to bring my issues or our perceived issues to this platform. But yeah, I'll address it tomorrow. All right. Okay, last one. The problem with Yard is Tunde is trying to nick as much money as possible with minimal risk. The Yard versus Buatsi fight won't happen this year. I blame Yard and his team more than Buatsi. there was definitely times in the past when I think it's fair to say that Yard swerved that fight. But having said that, there has been times more recently when the fight has been called upon the other side, and it seemed like Bawatsi's team were less keen, or he had his own plans, his own situations. So I don't know. I think at this point, if I'm gonna be real, I actually think that Yard wants to fight more now than definitely before, specifically because he's got the losses. So because he's got the losses now, he just needs to get into the big fights. Bawatsi is still a very big fight for him. Their names have been linked together for the longest amount of time. So it makes perfect sense to go into that fight. And now you ain't got O to protect. It's like, you've had 3 losses. Yeah, there's the risk of, okay, if I lose another time now, maybe it's all officially over for me in that sense of being a draw or being able to command big money. I don't know. But yeah, I think he's got a lot less to lose now than he did before. Hence why he would appear to be a lot more keen to have that fight now than before. That's what it looks like from the outside looking in. But yeah, okay. So next fight to really talk about, what I want to really quick, I just want to give much props and praise to Liam Dillon and Reece Bellotti. I definitely think of the weekend, that was what I would call the fight of the weekend from a casual's point of view, because it was the fight that delivered. It delivered on action. It was pretty much a brawl. There was no real there was no particular skill sets in it, apart from what I will say is Reece Bellotti was very, I'm not going to say clinical, but he landed a lot of clinical shots in that fight, and he actually exposed the level of a Liam Dillon. Now, I don't know if Liam Dillon necessarily, I think his lack of power is something that's really going to hamper him. He's extremely tough, really strong. He could take a punch. He took some serious punches all night, and he was fine afterwards. I saw him when he left the changing rooms at the end of the event. He was still laughing, joking, didn't have to go and get checked over by medical. He was calm. So he's got a chin on him. But that being said, he's got no power. And I think the fact he's got no power means that if he can't outwork people, then the chances of him winning, especially if he's in there with someone that can actually crack, is always going to kind of go that way, because the judges are going to see a lot of his windshield wiper wishy-washy punches, and then they're going to see that clean work from the other guy, and they're going to give the fight to the other guy because of that. And that's kind of how it looked in that case. It was just he got hit with the backhand uppercut left hook combination in, I think it was round 6. It was either round, I think it was round 5 or round 6. He legit got hit with that same combination 4 times in a row and couldn't do anything to change the trajectory of it. And I look at that and I say to myself, wow, like if this is how you're trying to fight to keep your title, don't get me wrong, the heart's there, the desire's there, but that was shocking, basically. Will he may get the British title back when Reece Bellotti lets go of it and it becomes vacant again, but I can't see him being able to actually beat anyone of decent note for that belt. So it was a great fight to watch on the night. Like I said, it was just an entertaining fight. There was no real skill to see. It was pretty much fought in the phone booth, away from the ropes for the majority of it. Both guys they put their heart and their soul into it, so I commend them for that. But Reece Bellotti, I did predict would win quite clearly as a UD, and obviously that is exactly what happened. Right after that fight, let's talk about Keyshawn Davis and Jose Pedraza. Now, I've actually just finished watching this fight before the show started to actually just get an understanding of how it worked, because I was falling in and out of sleep when it happened. One thing I will say, like, Keyshawn's punch placement has improved. Like, he's always been like a pretty good amateur, but he looked very dialed in, especially after the first round. First round, he took some silly shots he probably shouldn't have really been taking. But after that first round, when he started to really settle into it, yeah, he got caught a couple of times. But I think Pedraza just looked like the shots had no power on them. I think dropping back down to 135 really affected his performance in general. Like, he looked a bit slower than he's looked recently. That he looked like he was pushing his punches when he was finally getting them out. Like, the body shots didn't seem to have anything on them. It didn't seem like he was really being able to turn his feet and turn his hips into the punches. He looked like he was just throwing punches to stay in the fight as opposed to try and win. And Keyshawn was just unloading good combinations. It was body head. It was body head. It was like body left hook, right hook, back to the body, just like 3-4 punch combinations, and he stayed in the pocket for the majority of the bout. There was virtually no walking, there was no movement. It was all like, I'm gonna stand within like 1 foot of you to make sure that if you try to hit me, I'm coming back. And every time I come back, like, you're gonna feel it. And Pedraza felt it again. He might have been a bit weight drained, but he wasn't taking those punches well at all. And yeah, his eye got sort of swollen up, I think in round 2 or round 3. The doctor came in to look at it. The eye got cut in the 6th round when it got stopped, but by that time he pretty much had a lot of the fight beaten out of him. He didn't quit. He's a warrior, went out on his shield, as he has always done. Even though he hasn't been stopped a huge amount of times, but he always goes to give it a go like that. But I think the dropping down to 135 was a mistake, and ultimately just had the resistance beat out of him. Good stoppage by who was it? I think it was Thomas Taylor was the referee. So it was a good stoppage. And Keyshawn shows himself to be he's not ready for world scene yet. I know he's calling that Teofimo. Said he's willing to go to 140 for that fight, but he's not ready for that yet. As bad as Teofimo looked, if he stays in the pocket with Teofimo, he basically gives Teofimo everything that he wants in a fight. And that's not the way he wins. And he's not experienced enough yet as a pro for me to have that fight. But I have seen rumors of Keyshawn Davis against Floyd Schofield as a next fight. Now, if that fight happens, that is a very, very intriguing fight, and I will definitely be tuning in. Schofield 16-0, I think, with 12 KOs, and Keyshawn's 12-0, I think, with 7 KOs at this point, 7 or 8. So yeah, I'd definitely watch that fight if it came out. But yeah, in terms of Teofimo, yeah, leave him alone for now. Abdullah Mason on the card, a big congrats to him. Second round KO. Devastating left hook to end the fight. He's the truth of the prospects. He is the guy. Out of that top ranked stable, I mean, look, Shushu Carrington, Tiger Johnson, Jared Anderson, Richard Torres Jr., all of those guys. There's a couple others as well. But like, Abdullah Mason is the guy. Like, if you was gonna put your money on one of them sort of making it to the top level, it's him. I think he's only 19. So if he stays on the same trajectory that he's at now, just imagine him at 21, 22. It's a scary proposition. He's 11-0 already. So yeah, big ups to Abdullah Mason and his performance. And that was pretty much the end of that card. Really quick, if we talk about all right, let's go over to the Queensbury card real quick. I didn't see a lot of the fights on this card. I saw Sam Noakes and Lewis Sylvester. I predicted that this fight would actually go points, because I thought Sylvester would employ a lot more movement, would sort of get maybe beat up in a couple of rounds, but would be able to move and, see himself around the peripheries of the fight itself. But I think maybe because he thought all of a sudden he's got power, because he stopped his last opponent, and the way in which he stopped him, he must have thought that his power just magically generates. He started to hold his feet a lot more against Sam. He was doing very well in those first couple of rounds with the movement, offsetting Sam Noakes, not allowing him to set his feet for those shots. But then he just started to plant his feet and thought he could trade. And that was basically like when it got on top for him. From that 3rd round onwards, he just started taking the beating, and yeah, ultimately got stopped in the 4th. I think they threw the towel in. Um, yeah, look, Sam Noakes is a good opponent. He's a good guy. I think he's one of Queensbury's better prospects. So I'm interested to see how he gets matched moving forward. I mean, he is lightweight. So again, if they call that 5v5, I think he may very well be Queensbury's lightweight contender, their lightweight participant. And if that's the case, that would be very interesting to find out who Matchroom picked, because if they in fact pick someone like Cruz, you know, like I think they might do, yeah, that will be we'll have to see exactly if Sam Noakes, you know, can handle that kind of, you know, elite level boxing. But yeah, look, it's very interesting. He did well, so big ups to him. I saw the Cash Asfak fight with who did he fight? Abdullah Masood, I think it was. Yeah, I've predicted that Masood would win that fight, so it is what it is. Let's talk about, I guess, real quick. Alois Jr., the left hook that he dropped his opponent with. I don't remember the guy's name, but I think he used to be a cruiserweight. But he came up to, no, I think he was light heavy that came up to cruiser. I could be totally wrong on that, but either way, that first round knockout, that first punch, the fact he managed to get up from that was like credit to him. But from that happened, it was only going one way. So shout out to Alois Jr. What else was on that card? Okay, I guess real quick we could talk about Hamza Shiraz versus Liam Williams. Now, in this fight, I actually thought that Shiraz was going to get the win, and I predicted around about, I think, between rounds 3 and 5. My issue was exactly what happened. I thought that with Liam Williams, every time that he has a fight, in the first couple rounds, he will get hurt and he'll get floored. It's almost like he has to acclimatize, his body has to acclimatize to punches before he can do anything. And in this fight, I didn't expect it to happen in the first round, if I'm going to be totally honest, but it happened. Like, he got caught with the jab, he got rocked back by the jab on a couple of occasions, dropped off his feet, but then it's almost like when he got caught, he didn't react the way that he normally reacts. Like, it wasn't like, oh, okay, I'll get knocked down and then sort of come into it. He seemed very timid after that. Usually he will still try and come forward and exchange. On this one, he was backing up. He looked a bit unsteady. He had the high guard backing up as well. It just didn't look the same. So I have to assume, yeah, unfortunately, he's shot right now. The punch resistance is totally gone. And credit to Hamza Shiraz, because his jab has become an amazing tool. His jab was never like that good before. You know, obviously he had the long levers, and so he had good range, and you know, it was almost like a decent placement shot to then you know, counter and, you know, bring the other shots behind it. But his jab has now become a very, very effective weapon. And if he was called on that, you know, the middleweights for the 5v5, if I was on Eddie's team, I would be concerned. I'd be worried. There is obviously Austin Ammo Williams, and I think that he's got the right tools to do the job, but that is a scary proposition on the domestic level. I still don't think he's ready for the world level yet. I still think at world level he you know, gets taken out at this point, because I still see there's certain deficiencies there. But in terms of like the guys that are coming up with him, if you can get past the jab, then I reckon you've got a very good chance of being able to do damage. But you have to get past it, and his jab is greatly improved. So yeah, he's a problem. He's definitely a problem. And if those 160s come out, if he gets chosen, then the other guys, I guess they've got to do some real proper studying. So we'll have to find out. Jonah 31 says Hamza versus Bentley is the best fight to make. Definitely, I think. Although with problem with Denzel, now that he ain't got his British title no more, unless he can get another belt of some sorts, maybe a European or something from Tyler Denny, or he's gonna get in that who needs him club, because he's too dangerous to take as just a voluntary with nothing on the line. And before, the British was the reason he was getting opportunities, because people wanted his belt. Now he ain't got that. It might be a bit of a problem for him. So I want to see him back in. I want to see him in those fights, but he might get avoided. They might say he's not worth the risk. So yeah, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Trying to think, is there anything else on these cards? Cameron Vong, Ishmael Ellis, pretty much. He said he came to fight when I think he lied to us in the press conference. He came to sort of, I guess, maybe to pose him some problems on how to cut the distance and how to sort of, trap an opponent and how to cut the ring off. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't think that that Cameron Vaughn was allowed to maybe show what he showcased, and I don't think Ishmael Ellis came as advertised in the fight. But Cameron got the stoppage, I believe. I think he got the stoppage in that fight. I wasn't really paying attention, if I'm being totally honest. But he did well. From what I did see, like the combinations were crisp. The stance was good, foot placement was good, all that stuff. So, yeah, I'll give him props on that one. And he's going to be fighting Jordan Flynn in his next fight with 9-0 versus 4-0. That's going to be a very interesting fight. I actually think Cameron needs to buckle down and knuckle down hard, because he's still only 4-0, and Flynn is tough, and Flynn's not going to let him get away with some of the stuff that he gets away with now. But yeah, he's got the skills. Cameron Vong's definitely got the skills to come through that, but that is not going to be an easy fight by any stretch. And to be honest, at this point in time, that's 55-45. That's a very, very hard fight, and I would not be surprised if he ended up losing, quite frankly. But with that being said, there's only one last fight to talk about from the card as a whole, and that is, I guess, Shannon Ryan competing for her first ever title. It wasn't the British and Commonwealth like it was supposed to be. She ended up fighting for a WBA International because Emma Dolan pulled out with illness. Luckily for her, Jasmina Zapatochna's opponent, Maisie Rose Courtney, also pulled out with illness. So they was both supposed to be on the same card anyway. So no one got drafted in last minute notice. They both had good training camps. Yeah, they weren't training for each other specifically. Funny enough, if you look at the two of them, they were both training for the same person. Like Maisie Rose Courtney is very similar to Emma Dolan in style, and so you got Shannon that's training for Emma Dolan, you got Jasmina that's training for Maisie Rose, and then they end up fighting someone that's a polar opposite to that, but a very similar style to themselves, which was I guess it was a good dynamic for them. It was something to work off. So with this, this was one of the other few fights I actually did take footage of. So from round one, basically what you'll see in the footage especially is obviously you got Shannon on the front foot initially holding center ring, and you've got Jasmina trying to find range with a lead hand. Both got the lead hands low until they're getting close, and that's when Shannon will put her arms up. In the first few rounds, you'll see that Jasmina had just no answer for the speed. They say timing beats speed, but she was really struggling with the timing. She was struggling with the movement. She didn't have as quick a feet. She wasn't as centered as Shannon was, and it just sort of became very sort of samey for the first few rounds. Now, in the first 3 rounds, Shannon was doing well by using that stab jab to the body. She was investing to the body, but after a while, I think when she realized or saw how easily she could hit Jasmina upstairs, she totally abandoned the body at that point. And I felt that she started headhunting way too much, especially from like round 3 onwards. Like prior to that, she was putting that stab downstairs to lower their hands to get the to get the shot over the top. But after that, everything just became about trying to counter upstairs. And but it's weird because from this angle, every single round, I've got every round recorded from the first second to the last second. Even though there are some people that kind of maybe walk through the frame at points, I've cut all of that out. But you can just see, like, even when Jasmine is trying to be busy with the lead hand, half the time it's not landing, or it's hitting gloves, or she's just touching gloves, as you can see there. Nothing's really going for her way. The best chance that she has, and the best success she has, is when she actually forgets trying to hit the head and starts going for the body. Now this here, I believe is from round 4. This is where you can kind of see Shannon, she hasn't started to slow down just yet, but you can see that she's starting to work a bit harder. So it looks as if Jasmina at this point is starting to either find range, or maybe she's having a bit more success and she starts coming forward rather than rather than being the defender. She starts being more of the aggressor from about the 4th round onwards. And in that moment, like, you can see Shannon still on the front foot here, but she, eventually she starts to move backwards a bit more and starts to be the counter puncher and the defender. But I'm gonna be real, every round pretty much looks very similar to this. Like, there was sometimes, like, Jasmine, a really good shot there, really good shot to the body, but then gets hit up top. It was just, everything was always clean up top from Shannon, whereas, like, a lot of the stuff that Jasmina did, like, got caught in scrambles, like right there. Another good body shot, but it got lost in a flurry of 2 head punches that caught her up top. And it's funny, I saw someone on Twitter basically saying, like, oh, they had Jasmina up, but obviously because Shannon is the matchroom girl, like, she's supposed to, of course she's going to get the victory. I'll be totally real with you. The only round, there was 2 possible rounds that I could give to Jasmina in this entire fight. And that was potentially round 8, which, when I looked back at it, I could still make a case to say that Shannon won that. And the 10th. The 10th round, I think, was Jasmina's clearest round for victory. And even then, it was still a very, very close round. Like, if I'm going to be real, there's several rounds. Rounds 5 and round 6 were really good rounds for her. But again, I don't think she won them, but it's hard to say that she lost them. So I could quite easily give like, draws for those rounds. Now, personally, I kind of had to fight a 99. I had it 99-91 on the night, yeah. But looking back at it, I said, okay, well, she's kind of drawn these rounds. She ain't won them, but she doesn't deserve to lose them either. So I had them sort of as draws. But realistically, this fight could have been 99-94. It could have been 194. It could have been 193. It could have even been 100-90. But there's very few rounds here that I saw Shannon losing in, from this angle that I'm seeing. And even on the TV, she outlanded Jasmina in every round. It looks like she hit the harder shots in pretty much every round, except maybe maybe I think the 4th, she landed a really good body shot that Shannon wasn't. It looked as if Shannon was. She felt that one. And in obviously, like, the 8th, 9th, 10th, like, Shannon obviously started holding on, like, really tired. Obviously she'd been ill, so I guess she was having issues with, sort of breathing. Her mouth was open from quite early in the fight, from like the 4th round. But again, there, like, in every exchange, Shannon pretty much comes off the better in the exchange, and you can see her visibly moving Jasmina's, moving her body. And every time Shannon moves, it's because she's setting up an angle, as opposed to every time Jasmina gets moved, it's because a punch looks to be knocking her off balance. So, yeah, it was one of those ones. Again, like, Jasmina employed a lot of good body work, and Shannon neglected the body from the 4th round on. And I saw her after the fight, and I did say to her, I would, that's the one thing. If I got a criticism about the fight, that's the criticism. Like, you didn't go to the body enough. And as there you can see, that's the head clash in the 8th round where the blood started to splatter from the head. And that's obviously when she's got to face adversity, never been cut in a fight before, you know, no idea how that's going to affect her. If you're already not feeling well, blood loss is definitely not going to help you. Where the cut is, it potentially gets into the eyes. So there's a lot to really contend with. And this is where Jasmina really started to have more success. She started to press forward here, and you could see Shannon having to be more of the defender. She stopped pressing forward and started getting on the bike, trying to box from that particular point. So this is in the 9th round where the ref obviously takes her to get seen by the corner, and the doctor says, yeah, it's fine, she can carry on. You see, you can still see, you know, nice clean shots in the 9th. This is also the round where Jasmina ends up having a wardrobe malfunction, and Shannon takes big advantage of it, and right there the wardrobe happens. Then she ends up just rossing her against the ropes. Bang, triple punch combination with the hands down. It's funny that the ref didn't obviously stop that before, but you know, they always say protect yourself at all times, and that's exactly why you need to do that. Otherwise you'll get, you know, you get cheap shotted if that's the case. But now we're sort of into the 10th round, and again you've still got Shannon trying to come forward, trying to throw, but you can see that she's having a lot more trouble, a lot more difficulties here. She's still landing fairly good, but she's getting caught now, body shot. She's having to hold on a lot more, especially towards the end of the round. She's getting, you know, Jasmina's getting the better of the exchanges, and Shannon's boxing on the back foot. But again, there's still a case, you could make a case that she still won this fight in this round, sorry. So I would very much like to have seen the scorecards to see what rounds was given to what girl, because obviously one scorecard was 98-93, and then the other two are 96-94 apiece. Again, watching it and that angle, as I saw the fight, I couldn't find 4 rounds to give Jasmina. At best, I thought I saw maybe 3 to 4 rounds you could give her a share of, but there was none to me that she actually won. And obviously, just because you do better in one round than you did the round before, that doesn't necessarily mean that you won it. Yeah, I felt that overall, the cleaner work, the more like the better combination punching, the better aggression for the majority of the fight all came from Shannon. But the good, what I will say is the good effective body punching came from Jasmina. And I definitely give her consideration for that. And clearly, towards the back end of that fight with, you know, Shannon saying that she was ill, obviously having a lot of muscle, so which takes more oxygen and more energy to consume, it's obvious that you're going to slow down. And whereas Jasmina had less sort of muscle mass to have to carry around, she ended up, you know, sort of becoming a bit more aggressive and a bit more come forward at the end of it. So look, overall, really good performance by Shannon, very competitive and game performance by Jasmina. Well wishes to her. I did hear that she was taken to hospital after the fight, that she wasn't in a very good way once she left the ring. So I hope that she is well, that she's obviously been discharged and is back in Wakefield now, and recovering. But yeah, it's, you know, I guess that's just a part of the fight game. Shannon did say to me, I did an interview with her before the fight, she did say, I'm going to hurt her. And I guess by, you know, the aftermath, while I guess in the ring, Shannon looked like she had the worst of the exchange of the bout. I guess, you know, it's almost like, you know, maybe Jasmina won the battle of perception but lost the war of reality. That's maybe how I'm gonna phrase that one. I might use that moving forward. I like that. Just came up with that. But yeah, overall, big ups to her. WBA International. She looked in the camera, said she wants Emma Dolan next. She wants that British title. She wants that Commonwealth title. And then she looks to push on to world honors after that. So it will be interesting to see how all of that plays out for her. But yeah, big ups to her, and definitely look forward to seeing what she does moving forward. Always a pleasure to watch her fight. She's always brings the energy, and I'm starting to really like the ring walks now. And I'm liking the trace of music as well. Shannon, just like Craig, when I see them come to the ring, I know that they mean business by what they're playing. Yeah, I liked what I was hearing. You know, some like, who was there? There was Vibes Cartel. There was Capleton. Was there Buju? I think I heard some Buju Banton as well. So yeah, like there was, and I saw Who was it? I saw Chef Clark in the front row. As soon as Shannon's music came on, he's like, "Okay, all right, you're on code today," which was good to see. And then yeah, when the vibes came on, yeah, you can even see it on the DAZN broadcast. He went nuts in the front row. So I'm like, all right, cool. He done the same thing obviously when Craig came out as well. Also, big ups to Danny Glover, Fight Fan TV. Obviously, was in Craig's corner. Chief second, I think he was. So he was there doing his thing, obviously getting his little shine on the Zone app. It's nice that you made it on there. I beat you to it, but it's nice you made it on there as well. But yeah, no, big ups to you. More corner work for you in the future. And yeah, just more glory to you, more glory to Craig, more glory to Shannon, more glory to Anthony Yard. I just need to see a step up now. I need to see how good Yard really is. That's all I'm really interested in. And everyone else that was on the card, Hamza Shiraz as well, done his job and everything. So I'm gonna go through a few of the other comments that have come in, and then I'm gonna sign off because obviously we've been going for a little while now. Big ups to everyone that has been watching. Thank you very much. I saw a comment from Tony in there somewhere. Okay, it was depends who you fight and what you fight for. Okay, I think that must have been in regards to the Commonwealth and the British. Fight for the Commonwealth is less these days. Back in the 90s, it was valued as higher. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought, yeah, Commonwealth is like you win Commonwealth, then you go British. But I know that a lot of the time they say British then Commonwealth, so I was never quite sure. Let's see what other comments is here. Some Commonwealth champions are better than world champions. I mean, yeah, there is maybe they have a higher ceiling than the world champions. I don't know if I could say they're quote unquote better if they haven't got the world title at the time, but yeah. You hear fighters in the millennium always value the British title more and say it's their dream. The dream is never the Commonwealth. Very true. Let's see what else have we got here. Buatsi versus Yard will happen next. Oh yeah, the Yard was calling out CBS. Tony Spencer Fearon did say 5 million offered by Qatar for Buatsi and Yard. I mean, is that a fight that really has to leave the UK? I mean, if it does, fair enough. But certain fights I feel like have to be here. That seems like the kind of fight that has to be here. But if the Qatari family have got 5 mil for it, then let them, let it go there, I suppose. Tony, this must have been from Philip Answer. Tunde coming on Monday Night Smoke tells me he's trying to come into our world to shake up things. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I guess he needs to, they need to strike up and make some debate somewhere in it between the two. You're not going to get, I mean, look, you're not going to get impartiality over there because they're all Team Yard, rightfully so. On this side, okay, you got Travis, that's Team Yard, but you got KG, that's Team Buatsi, and then you've got more of a split opinion in the chat. So I guess it's a bit more of a neutral ground. So yeah, you kind of need to come over and move to the other side. Tony Bellotti is resurgent, like Jordan Gill. Yeah, that's very true. Keyshawn Davis looked good, but I think any pure boxer will give him problems. Well, he's a boxer puncher, so yeah, stylistically he will have an issue against pure boxers. More of an issue, I should say. But to be honest, he's quick enough that he can get into range, and he's got good boxing fundamentals, whereby I think that he can nullify a lot of the movement. It's about whether if they've got a big punch, that's where he's going to have problems, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Danny, thank you. No, man, there's no need to thank me. It was true. Like, big ups to you, innit? Always doing your thing, always out there representing. If you guys don't subscribe to Fight Fan TV Live, make sure you get over there, leave your subscriptions, go watch a little bit of the content, get those views up, so you can get that AdSense and the the revenues and everything, so they can keep doing bigger and better things. Neutral Corner, brilliant show. Been on there twice. It's yeah, he always goes above and beyond to get in the good quality the good quality guests. You know, good quality cameras, you know, edits, all that stuff. Go support Fight Fan TV if you don't already. But yeah, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sign it off now. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you to Craig Richards for jumping on. Much appreciated. You know, honorary member of the Great Defeaters team, and it's always a pleasure to chat to Craig. And yeah, big up to Shannon Ryan. I did actually want to get Shannon to come on today as well. Unfortunately, she's at an event. She wasn't able to make it, and that's one of the reasons she's frustrated about the cut, because she had an event to go to today. But yeah, well wishes to her. She says she'll definitely come back on at a later date, so we can sort of get that one on. I'm also working on. I actually tried to get Eddie Hearn to come on today as well, but he's traveling early in the morning to Mexico, so the schedule wouldn't have allowed for such a late night. But I'm working on getting Eddie to come onto the breakdown as well at some point, and then, you know, if I can, I'll see if I can reach out to Frank Warren and his team and see if I can get Frank to come on at one point as well. So yeah, everyone, thank you very much for watching. As you can see, the ticker tape, as always, you got BaseDaKID, the Hardcore Casual. That is my YouTube channel. There will be a video out first thing in the morning addressing the stuff from the weekend. If you want to catch me on Twittex, as I call it, it's B_A_S_E, or just type in BaseDaKID and I show up. I'm the first one that shows up there. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Threads as well as BaseDaKID. I very rarely post on there, to be honest, but every now and again you might get something from the stories. And even though he's not actually on the show today, but Tony, obviously my co-host, make sure you tune into his look into his channels as well. On Instagram is where he puts up the majority of his content. Pugilistboy, which is a PUGLISTBOY. And on YouTube, I think it's the same as well. But on Twittex, as I call it, it's Pugilistic Boy. No, it's Pugilistic Boy on Instagram, and it's Pugilist Boy on Twittex and on YouTube. Yeah, because he lost his old Instagram account. But yeah, go on there. It's Pugilistic Boy on Instagram, and that's where he produces the majority of his content. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Leave your comments, and obviously when the show actually uploads, if you leave some comments in the actual show chat as well, would be much appreciated. But for right now, it's BaseDaKID signing off. I will catch you next week. So until then, peace.